Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and this is Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 19th day of April 2021. Well, we're on a Monday here. I started and it kind of got, it froze, so I don't know. Anyway, so I've got the runes already drawn. I don't have the cards drawn yet. I'm going to shuffle just a little bit more though on the cards. But I drew Sawillow, and Sawillow is the rune of, it's basically the rune of higher self and revelation. It's an as above, so below rune, and you can kind of see that as above, so below. But we're manifesting from a higher self perspective here with Sawillow. It's enlightenment, it's awakening, it's shining a light on things, basically. But that's what the sun does, and it's shining a light on the self. When you talk about the sun, you're talking about the self and identity and all of that. Now the geomancy rune though for today is Karser. Now Karser is about restriction. It's about getting in the way of oneself, or it could be restriction imposed by someone else. But generally speaking, I like to look at this from the standpoint of what are we doing in terms of our own perceptions, and how are we manifesting from that standpoint. Where do those perceptions come from? Are they coming from our external experiences, which are very subjective, which they do, or are they coming from a place of higher self-awareness? And I think that with Sawillow here, that's really the issue that we're talking about today. Where is the self-restriction coming from? And generally speaking, it's ego. So but we'll see. We'll see what the cards have to say. We'll see if how they expand on this idea of awakening, and awakening from the self-restriction we're putting ourselves under. Uh, you know, Getting in the way of our own, progress, and what's doing that. What do we need to awaken from, basically? And usually, like I said, it's usually the type of faulty perception that gets going. I mean, you have experiences and you draw conclusions, and pretty soon, you formed an attitude about it, and so that's really what we're wanting to take a look at today is how are we restricting our own momentum, our own ability to interact and do things in a successful way? What kinds of restrictions are we putting on ourselves today, and how can we awaken from that whole dream state that isn't probably serving us all that well? So anyhow, let's go ahead and take our first three cards, and we'll see if we need to add any more. Well, we've got two sixes in today, which is interesting. I had two tens in the first one before it froze. I just had taken it and it froze. It's like, oh no, here we go. It's a Monday. So the thing about the sixes are about a different level of harmony than the two and the four. And so we have the Six of Swords, we have the Knight of Pentacles, and we have the Six of Cups. And so we'll start here. Both have a shared experience. Both sixes have a shared experience. Let's talk about them first. Here we have the Six of Swords. Now traditionally this is thought to be a journey over water, but what you're talking about with swords is the air element. So you're talking about perception and intellect and reason and justice and fairness and balance and all of that. Well, are you taking a journey? See, it's in wintertime. You can see the snow here and here. You can see the woman and the child sort of huddled against the wind there on the water. You can think of this as a family moving on to new experiences, but it's probably best to think of it in terms of new perceptions as well. They've got all their swords stuck right there in the boat, hopefully not creating a leak, but they've got everything arranged there pretty much together in unison. But they're embarking upon upon new ideas, a new direction. That can also be the air element. But inherent in the new direction is new awareness and new perceptions as well. Now, if you go on to the other 6 on the other side here, you can see the X down here. That's similar to Gebo, or balanced energy exchange with others. But we see 6 cups, and there is a white flower in each one of them, along with other flowers. She's offering shared abundance. So again, that's the aspect of this. That's the shared part of it. You know, the shared harmonious part of it is the idea that we're sharing in this journey together that we're taking. Shared perceptions, basically. Here is the same thing. The notion of sharing abundance. With cups, you're talking more of an emotional connection here. But there's also, you know, the gold is also about what you possess as well, on the golden chalices there. So she's got an awful lot of flowers, and she wants to share them with other people as they're walking by, which is what she's doing there. You can think in terms of shared, the abundance that you share with others is your own time, your emotions, your compassion, your empathy. And clearly, you know, we've all been going through it for the last, over a year now, and with the pandemic and everything and all this stuff related to that. But also our relationships have been quite strained with the conspiracy stuff that's going on. This is suggesting a shift in perception, so that we can get back together on a shared path, shared awareness of one another, shared awareness of the needs of other people, and don't allow your own perceptions to restrict you from doing that. It's almost like the Knight of Pentacles is aligning with Suelo, sort of an awakening there. You see the almost it's so bright it's almost gold-like light that's returning. We don't see the sun necessarily, but we know that it's there. And with the Knight of Pentacles, we're talking about foundation. Pentacles is earth element, and so we're talking about material stuff. But it's also about who we are in form. So it's not just material security. It has to do with the actual physical structure of our lives, the manifestation of it. There's mountains here in the background. You see a little bit of a hill rising there. So some challenges along the way. Now this looks like, I'm not sure what this is. I've never been sure if that's a body of water, or if it's just some space that Pamela Coleman Smith used to do her signature logo there. But we have his visor is up on his helmet, so there's no battle. And he's holding a large coin there, a large pentacle, in offering to the future. It's almost like he's leading us into a new experience that's going to help the foundation of our lives. You see the strength of that horse there. The Knight of Pentacles always reminds me, knights are dynamic, and they're about movement, they're about change, they're about protection. And so something about, and the 6, of course, is suggesting change just by, a boat going across the water. And this is also a great card for, and also the other 6s too, to understand that there's more than one element sometimes portrayed in a particular card. I mean, here you have both air and water. So intellect versus emotions. The water looks calm, other than where he's using his staff to propel this small boat along the way there, across the water there. But other than that, that's self-driven, basically. It's not something that they're trying to deal with, a bunch of emotions. The emotions have settled, they've made their decision, and they're moving on to new awareness, to new experiences, to new perception, going off in a new direction in their life together. The issue of it being cold, is also cyclical. And so even though they're moving away from something maybe that is not as because it doesn't look like they're heading toward the snowy trees there and the snowy ground there. It doesn't look like they're headed in that direction. They're veering off another way. So it's almost like they're heading off in the direction of spring and new beginnings, you see. In fact, it kind of looks like he's even looking at that scene over there across the water, like he's leaving it behind. He's going off in a different direction. And again, it has to do, that's going to redefine the structure of our lives, removing us from the self-restriction of carcer, having a different awareness come in from spirit, less ego-oriented and more the greater awareness of who we are to one another as the other side of self, that allows us to live in reciprocity here and extend the gift of our time, of our compassion, of our empathy, just of beauty. You know, you can think this could be similar to, you could think maybe this is related to Libra and the balance found there, and not just the balance, but the balanced energy exchange with other people, but also Libra focuses on beauty and aesthetics and all of that. So, you know, she's trying to share some of that with someone else in the village. And for all we know, it could be the woman in the boat. So I think, you know, last week we were thinking about the readings. Both readings dealt with, I think, feeling like maybe we've been struggling financially. And last week we were discussing on Monday, we had the Five of Pentacles, and it felt like maybe nobody was listening to you. Maybe nobody was paying attention to the fact that you're struggling. Or on the other hand, it could simply be that you've gotten in this flow of not asking for help and you don't realize that help is there. And so that's what I think the theme of last week was, is we were dealing with some misperception, which maybe we're talking about here. So after last week of learning that, yeah, you know, there really might be something there, that maybe the stimulus check, the relief check hadn't reached your mailbox or your bank account yet, but maybe it did last week. Maybe there was a shift in your finances to something better last week. But basically, if that's the case, I think this week might be building on that. It's like, okay, now that has changed for you, so maybe this week we're going to head off in a different direction. It's given us the ability to do that. So this may be one time where the week before actually does influence the current week. So I just think that we were dealing with issues of that, and now suddenly we see a little more strength in that regard. See. And with that shift in perception, we can start to come back into balance with other people, some kind of balanced interaction where you can, you know, be able to release the restriction of, oh, I don't want to talk to you, and now you're offering flowers, okay? So something's shifted. Something is shifted in terms of perception that affects the foundation of who we are. And again, I think that there's been a lot of unfortunate stuff happen in terms of our relationships with one another, especially with regard to the whole conspiracy stuff that's going on. That stuff has been so destructive. It's been destructive to families. It's been destructive to our government. All because these folks want to believe something that they were basically set up for. And it's unfortunate. It's all going to come out eventually, but right now people are still struggling with that. And the families that are sitting there watching I mean, essentially it's become a cult movement. And when you watch a family member, a loved one, a friend, a coworker be sucked in by a cult, that's just the most horrible thing. And periodically through our society, this happens. We see You'll see reports of this where a cult has sprung up. We saw it in Waco. We saw it, we see it all over the place. Different to the Heaven's Gate stuff. All of that you see periodically, this sort of thing happening. What we've never seen is this. The type of numbers and the type of folks that are falling for this. It's amazing to me that people that you would think that are well educated wouldn't fall for something like this, and yet they are. And what they've done is they've played on people's perceptions and on people's fears. Again, Sawillo's saying, well, you got to let go of that and awaken to something that's a little above yourself here, and above the whole ego structure of life, and see through a different type of vision, a type of source vision, of spirit vision, and release the restriction you've put on yourself, and understand that you've been duped, and everyone else is just standing around going, well, why do you think that stuff, but for some of them, see, it's been there's been so much propaganda that's been in the underlayer of everything, right? And from one particular news source, cable news source, that is piped into the military, I guess, everywhere, all, in where they're eating, where everywhere. It's like, no, that's all propaganda, and yet we've got issues now because of this. And so it's affected the propaganda and the lies and the need for control by a very small number of people who is actually doing all of this. They just have affected things in a way that have become quite profound, leading to what happened, the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. So we can see where all of this, you start believing all these things, and you get more activist and more entrenched into this whole belief structure. But what if it's wrong? What if it's not true? Now you got all these people believing this stuff. They rise up, right, due to these faulty beliefs, and now here we are. So it isn't to say that there aren't issues to deal with societally. There always are. But the stuff that they're talking about just isn't true. So again, today's reading shows a shift in perception that affects our foundation. And it's not just a shift in perception, we're actually acting on it. All right? And we're letting go of the restriction that has kept us bound into some kind of perspective that is just not helpful, that keeps us apart from one another. And now we see with the sixth that it's possible to come back into some better balance where you can, interact with other people in a harmonious and loving and compassionate and using empathy. In other words, healing the relationships that got off track. But to do it, we have to head off in a different direction, perception-wise, and stop getting in the way of stuff by believing somebody. Because the other side of carcer is it's an other imposed confinement in terms of someone else's perceptions that you're buying into. And so we have to awaken from that. That's what I think Sawillo's here for today, and I think that carcer is basically saying that you got to awaken from whatever's keeping you harnessed into something that is not useful to you. And so you can head off in a new direction that benefits you, your interactions with others, your own ability to offer compassion, and affects the very foundation and structure of your life. So I think that's it. We did it. I'll write this down and we'll pay attention for Thursday. We'll see. If we're going to continue on with this idea, or if we're going to shift into something else, given that we're sort of playing off of last week here, I think. Again, I think that this is a big process that we're in. It's unfortunate that we have become so divided by other imposed ideas and that are just nonsense. They're there to manipulate. That's all they're there to do. And they're to destroy the unity that and the shared purpose that we actually have together. That's what they're there to do. They're there to derail it so that they can take charge, basically, and have their way of living be imposed on our country and on our personal lives. The only way that works for them is if we see one another as the enemy. So I would encourage everyone at this juncture, if you kind of feeling that way, just leave your heart open for something else to enter. Because before you know it, the truth could come out that is so profound that people can't turn away from it, and they have to see what this is. They won't have a choice. And if that happens, then we could see a major shift back toward one another, essentially. And I'm sure for some families, that have been impacted by this cult stuff, I'm sure that would be a very welcome change. I'm sure it would be quite a relief. So anyhow, I guess that's it. We'll talk again Thursday. Again, the newsletter sign up is over on the side panel of the blog. Just put your email address in there and you can sign up for the newsletter. That goes out either Saturday night or Sunday morning. It's out. Esoteric influences are part of that, not the whole thing. So you get a little more than just that in your inbox. But I guess that's it. We're going to be, we got our second shot last week, so we're in the holding pattern. Our kids are getting their shots. My daughter-in-law, one of our daughters-in-law got hers yesterday or Saturday or something. I think it was Saturday. And then our oldest son got his Saturday. And then his wife's already got both of hers. And then my youngest son I'm not sure if he goes next week or when he goes, but everybody's in the queue now. At least my youngest son has an appointment now, so he knows when he has to go. But everybody's in the queue for the vaccine in our family, so we're going to be able at some point to get together. So that's going to be lovely. And meantime, we get lots of videos, and my grandson, we had a lovely one of him yesterday, and singing the ABC song with his dad. And he's only 21, not quite 21 months, and my son would say the first few letters, and then he would say the next, or maybe the next two, and then my son would say the next one, and he would say the next one. So he wasn't repeating, he was going on, which was kind of cool. That's pretty fascinating to watch that. He'll be 21 months at the end of the month, so that's pretty cool for that age. So anyway, but we'll look forward to seeing that in person. So anyway, you guys have a good day and have a good week, and we'll meet again Thursday. And be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.